Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Taking you behind the curtain. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Well, we know that it's a holiday because the one and only actor and singer and entertainer Norm Lewis is bringing his Christmas concert at 54 Below right here, where he belongs, December 16th and the 19th through the 24th. And then, as we get towards spring, that's March, he's going to perform at Carnegie Hall with the New York Pops. And Norm is literally just come off Broadway with Chicken and Biscuits, on another casualty of the COVID epidemic.
Yeah.
Norm, it's beyond sad, not only for all of you as actors. I have so many friends in the restaurant business that literally just can't hang on, and we're seeing this everywhere. So it's a pity.
Yeah, I know. And hi, how are you, Joan?
Hello, I'm good.
It's a pity, and it is. It's something that we kind of knew going into this because of the fact that we are in a serious pandemic.
Right.
Luckily, it's not as horrible as it was last year.
Right.
But it's still very real, and we knew we were taking a chance. And unfortunately, but it did get a nice little run, and people really loved it. Yeah.
They loved it because we absolutely need to be entertained, and we need to be able to laugh and cry and identify, and that's the magic of a theater. And
yes, it is.
So it's a great loss for us, but you're doing a lot of stuff, right? In fact, I saw you in a Christmas show that I'm trying to remember. It was
on television.
Yeah, I saw you on TV
with Reba McEntire. Yeah,
it was charming.
Yeah, it's called Christmas in Tune.
Christmas in Tune. It was a Lifetime movie.
Lifetime, yeah. And Reba McEntire is just amazing, and so is John Schneider. We had a great time shooting it. We shot it back in May of this year,
right,
and pretended we were cold. But it's always fun. I was honored to be a part of that, and I'm glad it's finally out and people can enjoy.
And they can enjoy, and that's what we need. It's about a couple who have split, but their kid,
right,
like all kids, want them to come back together, and they were singers and sang together, and she convinces them to get together for a charity over the holidays, and it was very charming, and you can all see it now. So what does it take to get ready now for your concert appearance? Your Christmas concert.
Before you and I, got to talking with each other, I was warming up. I was going through my scales and trying to get my voice in shape. And so that's one thing that I do. Also, just trying to get the words in my head. There's new material this year. And so we wanted to make sure that we covered a lot of base of what has happened over the past couple of years. And bring stories about the pandemic and what I did over the pandemic, and just bringing in some cheer, and hopefully people can relate to it. And it's going to be a fun show. It's not a concert or anything like that. It's a party,
which is what we need. And what did you do during the pandemic? A lot of food.
It's funny. I did a lot of Zooming.
I know, we're zoomed out.
Yeah. And I got called to a lot of meetings. I got called in to sing over Zoom, things like that. But luckily, I was able to get some work. Thank God. I shot an episode of that great show called Pose that Billy Porter is the star of. And then I also did a I went down to Mississippi and I shot a couple of episodes of a show that will air in the new year called Women of the Movement. And that is starring Adrienne Warren, who just won a Tony for Tina. And I'm doing a couple of those episodes.
Thank
I'm
goodness.
also doing a character on a show called Central Park that Josh Gad created. So I've been pretty busy, and luckily, thank God for that. And then now with these concerts coming up, it's been wonderful.
Right. It's a blessing, and it's fantastic. And people want to go out, no matter what. We are so virused out that, I mean, we can't be, but we are. It's really too much. And
it is. It's wearing on people's emotions and also psyche. And so I think trying to keep busy in whatever way, whether that be from home or going out safely and doing things, I think that's the cure, at least for now. That's the immediate cure. And just try to find something that interests you, and you can go out there and do it.
No, and lucky, and you are working, which is important. Now, when I read about things that you were doing, one of them was trying to eat more in a vegetarian way. Is that still happening?
Yeah. In fact, I just finished eating some vegan sausages.
Yes, my daughter does that too, and they're not bad, right?
They're not bad. Yeah, the texture is, modern technology has allowed people to make food feel like something that you've tasted before, and putting the right spices and stuff together. So I've been doing that. I'm not 100%. Like, I'll eat chicken. And once in a while, maybe once every 3 months or so, I'll eat a steak or something, or beef. But for the most part, I try to stay as vegetarian, vegan as I can.
Right, and you're allowing a little, every now and then, a little treat or a little taste of something past. Right. Now, is it true, Norm? I still remember watching you in Porgy and Bess with Audra McDonald, among a lot of other shows that really sort of touched your heart. But I'm curious, you really didn't know you could sing until you were a teenager, till you were 17?
Right. So I knew I loved singing, but it was one of those things where I was in church and I sang in the choir, but no one ever gave me accolades like, oh, you have a good voice. And, it just wasn't part of the vernacular in my church. You know what I mean? Like, we all had solos. We all had, like, little things to do. But I think I was a little too nervous to get up there and sing. I was heavily into tennis at that time, so that was my main focus.
Right, high school.
And and I wanted to be a professional player, but I wasn't, I was good, but I wasn't great. So I finally gave that up. But it was high school when someone heard me sing and they said, wow, you have a nice voice. And that's when it clicked. And so I just kind of decided to kind of go further with that. I didn't think I was a professional singer, but I knew I loved it. And I sang in choirs, even in college. But I still majored in business in college and worked in advertising and marketing for a while. And then I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to try this professional world, see if I can make it in this. And that was over 30 years ago, and I'm still here, thank God.
Yeah, but what happened when you started? You weren't like one of those kids that we see, at 6 years old, their mothers are schlepping them all over to auditions and everything.
No. It was I was 16 years old. I got in a choir in high school. Had my aha moment then, and then the next year I decided I was going to audition for the show choir. So that was where you danced and you did a little bit of Broadway stuff, and you did a little bit of contemporary stuff. And that was when someone gave me the accolades, and then I moved on from there. And in college, I still did those kinds of things, and I performed. I even did some theater in college, but it wasn't my main focus. And then I started working in for this newspaper, the Orlando Sentinel, and in the production department, moved to the marketing department, and then ended up in advertising. And I still sang. There were contests around Orlando. and I would sing at bars, and sometimes you could win $200 or $500, and even a big one, you could win a trip to New York. And I won a few of those. I lost a few, but I won a few. And one particular contest, there was a guy who was a judge who happened to be a producer for a cruise ship. And after I won, he came up and offered me a job, and that's when it became real.
You know, it's so interesting. When I was a kid, I was entertainment director for a while for the Holland American Line.
Oh, wow.
And so I related to your cruise ship. And they were, you know, in the shows, they were all wannabe or were already actors, actresses. They sang, they danced. They were like 8 in a room, how many they could squeeze in.
Right.
But yours really led to something.
Yeah, I met professional performers in my show. I was one of 6 people. And there were people who had been on Broadway. There were people who were just doing the gig and being journeymen. And they encouraged me because I was going to go back to school. I had made up my mind this was going to be my profession, and I was going to go back to college, study theater, and then maybe in 2 years or so come back and try New York. And one of the guys on the ship said, "Don't do that." He's like, "Go to New York, study there. Don't worry about taking a college course.
Right, just
go and study. There's great dance classes and voice teachers and acting classes up there, and still try to pursue your acting professionally." And that's what I did. And so I learned it was like on the job training.
But
and
you know what I'm curious about? I'm talking to Norm Lewis. How did you even know where to go or what to do? You were a Florida kid, and then so it wasn't part of your DNA. And there are certain, teachers that everyone tries to go to or dance classes. So was that hard to get hooked up to that network?
No, it was. You have to make a plan. This is something that I think a lot of people, students don't know. But you have to make a plan in order to, because you're an entrepreneur, you are a business person. So I made a direct plan of what I was going to do. I knew that back then, I think it's still around, but there was a publication called Backstage Magazine.
Yes,
and
still.
I was told that you have to go and get that and get a subscription and look into Backstage and see what's going on. So I would get that every week. I couldn't wait. It would come out, I think, every Wednesday, and I would get up early or late at night. I would go get it on Tuesday night and pick it up and go through it, scour through it, and I would mark out the auditions, and I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and put my name and number down, and sometimes I would wait in line, or I would go home and then come back. But, yeah, I specifically came to New York to act, and I did wait on tables, I catered, I did all of that stuff, but I was focused. Yeah.
So what was the big break?
That's a great question. I was lucky because 2 weeks after I got here, I got a job. It paid, $150 a week, but I got a job, and Seth Rudetsky was the musical director, and he hired me to be in the ensemble of a show up in Danbury, Connecticut at the Candlewood Playhouse. And I got to be in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And he believed in me at that young age. He was, this young kid who was in charge. And he helped me, he guided me through, and we've been friends ever since then. But I would say I just kept working. I worked with Nipsey Russell right after that in Atlantic City.
I used to go to Harlem to see Nipsey Russell perform when I was a kid.
Well, we were doing a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum at Harrah's Marina in Atlantic City. So that happened, and then I went back to Candlewood Playhouse and did some work there. I started doing more lead roles after that, and it just kind of kept blossoming from there. And again, I was focused, and I just went to everything. I tell people all the time, unless they specifically ask for blonde hair and blue eyes,
You're
showed
there.
up.
I know. Yeah. And then when you got the lead in Phantom of the Opera, I mean, that was gutsy of you, too, to go and say, hey, I can do it.
Well, I have been coveting that role for 20 years. I saw it back in 1994 with Colm Wilkinson up in Toronto. And from that moment, I said, I want to be in the show. And I just put it out in the universe. It took 20 years, but I finally made it.
I know, but it worked, and
It
people
did,
are
yeah.
still talking about it. It was the title role. So now you've got so much on your plate. Is there anything on the wish list?
You know, I've been very lucky to do a lot of the roles that I've dreamt of doing. So I am looking forward to this new landscape of new writers and composers and lyricists and to do some new material. I mean, I would love to go back and, that if Hugh Jackman decides to leave the show early, I would step in a heartbeat.
Well, I would love to see you do it.
I got a chance to do it down at Kennedy Center a couple of years ago. It was a short run, but it was always a dream role, and so maybe who knows? Who knows what might happen?
Right, put it in the air, and there's a really good possibility that it could happen. And don't forget that Norma's going to be at 54 Below, December 16th, and then the 19th through the 24th.
Right.
And who knows who's going to show up for that, right? You always have a lot of friends pop in.
It's always a party. That's what I love so much about this, is because it's always, and I'm not saying this in a brag way, but it's always sold out, and it's always one of those things where people know that they're coming for a good time. And, I love to talk to the audience. I love to, the repartee that we have. It's not just sit back and relax. I want you to sit up and enjoy and communicate with me, because that's what feeds me. And we're just here to have a good time.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Happy holidays, Norm. We wish you all the best. We'll see you there at one of the great clubs in New York, 54 Below. And then, who knows, Broadway is, again, right around the corner.
Right. And don't forget March 4th at Carnegie Hall with the New York Pops.
Have you ever done Carnegie Hall?
I have. I've been there a few times, but this is my first solo, my solo debut, and I'm really excited about that with Stephen Reinecke, and we're good friends, and he and I are going to do a couple of things. It's going to be fun.
I'm looking forward to it. That's great. We love Carnegie Hall, and I can't wait to see you on that performance. Take care. We'll talk again.
Thank you, Joan.
I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC.